Okay. We
All right,
are live.
we in it. We in it. We in it.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Today is
Tonight.
Wellness Wednesday. Um, Actually, I think you froze, Brandy. So I hope you can
Oh, I'm
still see
coming.
me.
Let me come back.
Oh, okay.
Let me come back. Am I
I
good
just,
now?
um, okay. Yes, you are. I wasn't sure because I know my connection be off sometimes. Um,
No, it was doing because, like I said, I'm on my phone, so it
oh
was,
yes,
it
yes.
was doing a little weird, and I got to get out of. So it had me actually on YouTube watching us, and I was like, okay, that's
Oh,
kind of
okay.
weird, but go
Um,
on ahead.
Well, today is Wellness Wednesday, and we are talking about radical acceptance, which is another DBT skill. We have been learning about some, DBT skills, dialectical behavioral therapy. So we are learning another skill, which is called radical acceptance, which is basically accepting reality for what it is. Um,
Hmm.
this is I feel like this is actually one of the hardest, well, not, I wouldn't say one of the hardest skills, because I definitely think that emotional regulation is definitely a
Yeah.
hard skill too. But I do feel that radical acceptance is something that you have to come to terms with at some point. But
Mm.
um, I feel like you have to do other stuff first, like control your emotions and just come,
Yeah.
um, before you can actually say, like, all right, you know what, whether this is a decision that I want to make, or whether this is how life is gonna be, and I have the power to change it or not. Like, I need to figure out, like, if this is what I'm going to accept, or if I'm going to move on from this situation. So
Okay.
we deal with a lot of changes in our life. We deal with a lot of, some people deal with a lot of pain, discomfort. Um,
Hmm.
and we always end up, using the unhealthy coping
Yeah.
habits to deal with it. So, I think that a lot of times people just, when it comes to like pain and suffering, or just ongoing
Hmm.
stress, like, we just feel like, okay, well, I'm just going to continue to just, mope and cope in this unhealthy way that I've always known to do,
Right.
instead of just
Right.
figuring out, like, okay, you know what, if this is what the situation is, if I can't change it, because the situation, it's
Mm.
not helping me, it's more so
You
hurting
don't
me.
have the control over it.
Exactly. What else can I do? So, people respond to situations in different ways.
Mhm.
If you can't problem solve, and you're not changing these feelings, then there's other things that you could either remain miserable. you know, that's the
Well,
reality.
that's not an option.
That's
It's not
definitely
an
not the
option
option.
to be miserable.
Exactly.
Mm-mm.
It's not the option anymore. And that's what we want to change. We want to change that option for you. And so with radical acceptance, there's a skill called turning the mind.
Okay.
But before we get to that, I want to basically, elaborate a little bit more on, like, radical acceptance. And it's just
Yeah, yeah.
basically when you're in a long shot of, like, just to keep it a little shorter, it's basically just
Okay.
when you stop fighting reality. You stop
Mm,
responding to those impulsive and those destructive behaviors. You are learning how to use the skills when you're feeling emotionally dysregulated, and you're having that distress, those distressful moments, and
mm,
you're letting go of that bitterness, and that's keeping you trapped in that cycle of. A
mm,
lot of people who dealt with trauma, um,
mm-hmm.
radical acceptance is really good for them, because it's they deal with, when you're dealing with trauma, you feel like you're stuck in that cycle. You feel like you're stuck in
Yeah.
that cycle of suffering, and you're always kind of being reminded of the trauma when you meet other situations or experiences that remind you of it. So
Yeah.
a lot of times, you know, um, how you can, like, it's just radical acceptance is trying to, like, really just stop fighting the reality of, like, okay, like, this is what it is, but now what is
Mm.
it we can do different.
Yeah. No, I like that you said, that you broke it down like that because it's like, all right, this is my situation. I
Right.
know that, it's not the best situation, but it is the
Right.
situation that I'm in. And I think the thing that I like that you added was like, okay, now what do I do, as opposed to giving up, for example, and being like, well, this is my situation. I might as well just do whatever, or I might
Right.
as well, you know what I mean? It's like, how do you move from that, instead of being in, like, I don't know, a fairy tale land,
Right.
somewhere else, like, oh, things are fine, they're good, and ignoring the fact of, like, the reality that's there, avoiding it.
Exactly.
um
Exactly.
Instead, you're meeting it head on, is what it sounds like you're saying,
Yeah.
which is good. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Radical acceptance.
And
Hmm.
the thing about it too is that, a lot of people like, um people will think that, like, because you're choosing to do like the radical acceptance, using that skill, people would
Yeah.
think that you're starting to give up too, because you would think that you're giving up as well,
Mm-hmm.
because you remember, it's that cycle of suffering that you've been
Mm-hmm.
doing for so long. So people are comfortable with just being
Mm-hmm.
unhappy and sad. It's like that undesirable emotion, like those
Yeah.
all those emotions, like it's
Comfortable
become.
with fighting all the time.
Yes.
Everything's got to be a fight, or
Yes,
yeah,
that
that
pain and
anxiety.
suffering. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like it becomes a cycle of that pain and suffering and those emotions. So when you finally decide, like, you know what, I don't want to be this I don't want to feel like this anymore. But in order for me to not feel like that anymore, that means I might have to let go of choosing
Mm-hmm.
to, you know, fight this situation, because that situation is only making me feel like this.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
choosing
See,
to,
and it's like, yeah, it's so interesting, because I feel like, when, the way that you're saying it, when done the right way, that it can be healthy. But
right,
on the other hand, part of my mind says, okay, but how is that different than giving up? Like, when you're just
right,
like, oh, I throw in the towel, all right, well,
yeah,
it is what it is.
right.
I know, I'm thinking, just to my own experiences, and like, there's certain things, like, I was in a recent situation where there's something going on, and I'm like, oh, I'm so tired of hearing about this situation, so
Right,
tired of it coming back up. And so, I said, okay, well, this is the course of action that I'm going to do to
right,
deal with that. And that, and then in that way, it didn't feel like I'm giving up. So now, when I'm faced with it, I don't feel the same intense emotion as I did
right,
before, because I've said, okay, I have now resolved that this is what the situation
right.
is, and here's what I'm doing about it, and I'm at peace with it. Right. So I don't know if that's a part of radical acceptance or not, but
It is.
okay. Okay.
Yep. Because that's the thing too. It's like, it's not so much about like you're just giving up on a situation. It's just the fact that you have to, like you said, making peace with the fact that maybe like what you've been doing, with the way that you've been doing it, or the way you've been responding to it, is not really beneficial to your mental and emotional health.
Right, right.
So the way that you've been dealing with it is that's what you're letting go of, you know. That's really what you're
Okay.
letting go of. It's not so much about like just giving up, you know, on that whole situation as a whole. Maybe it's just more so like the way that you're responding to it is what you're
Yeah.
more so letting go of and giving up to. But the way that you respond to it, and the that's where radical acceptance come in. It's like, okay, you know what? The way that I've been responding to it is the reason why I'm always angry, upset, feeling guilty, shame, whatever, all
Mm-hmm.
those emotions that are unhealthy. So I'm just going to accept the fact that this is the situation. This is what it is. The way that I was doing it is not helping me. It's actually hurting me. So I'm going to accept the fact that, that's just that. What I'm going to do
Yeah.
now is I'm going to focus on something different. Doesn't mean that I'm forgetting about that situation, but I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
focus on something different that's going to help me. Maybe that means that I'm going to go to therapy about the situation. You know,
Okay.
maybe
Yeah.
I'm going to do something else that's more desirable, that helps me deal with the emotions that was affecting me about that situation. Maybe I'm going to pray about that situation, because it's not like you're letting go of it. It's just you're letting go of those emotions that are making you feel pain and suffering about that situation.
Yeah, because you don't want to push things down, but you also don't want to dwell on things, right? Like there's a
You
lot of
don't.
people out there, who are basically constantly reliving their childhood traumas and
Yeah.
things like that, and they haven't accepted some really hard moments that have happened in their lives. So something
Right.
like that, to be able to say like, okay, I can finally find a way to accept it and be
Yes.
free of, of that denial is really great. What are the skills that somebody will use in order to achieve radical acceptance? Like what would they need to do?
So that's when we talk about turning the mind. So
Okay.
when turning the mind, what you do with turning the mind is basically what we just said in so many words is,
Mhm.
you look at it like, there was, is it a poem or something? What is it? The road, what is it called? Like the road less, I forgot the name of it. It's called like the road
Sounds
less
like you're
traveled.
about to say the road less traveled.
Yes, the
Okay.
road less traveled. Okay, like so sometimes I think about situations like that, like, but like we always want to think of it like, you know, situation like which way do we want to go? Like, do
You
you
got a
want to keep
fork in the
going
road. Are you
down?
going this way or this way?
Yes, like that full like, do you want to keep going down that path where you continue to suffer and you continue to feel this way, or do you want to just be like, you know what? Let me try. Let me try to go down this
Hmm.
path and see where it takes me. Like
Yeah.
everybody wants to always go down the road that everybody wants to go down the road where everybody travels, the ones that's always leading
Mhm.
to
Yeah.
sadness and being
Yep.
angry and want to lash out. Nobody travels
Yeah,
that
because they got
the road less.
camaraderie there.
Everybody,
Yeah, there's
nobody wants to
camaraderie
go down that
there.
travel. Right,
Hmm.
exactly. Nobody wants to go down that road of turning the mind to actually see, like, you know what? Let me see where this actually is going to take me, because they're afraid.
Hmm.
They're afraid
Yeah.
of acceptance. They're afraid of
Hmm.
accepting the fact that, actually, if I do go this way, something may change. But they're also afraid that if they do go this way, it does that mean I'm going to let go of what, you
Mm.
know what I mean? So I think,
Yeah. That's so powerful, especially if
yes,
they started to intertwine their identity with that event.
yes.
you
Yes.
know so if
Yes.
because then it's like, oh, if I let it go, then who am I now? I'm no longer,
Exactly.
this person
Right.
that is
Right.
is continuously victimized by this experience. Now I'm somebody who, I'm putting that to rest, and I'm
Right.
moving
Exactly.
on to different behaviors. Yeah,
Right.
that can be. Yeah. Ooh.
I'm
Because a lot of
telling
people,
you,
they want to still be able to hold on to that and feel a gaping hole when they don't have that.
exactly.
um
Ex-
in a real
and
twisted way, all of us, right? We've all like been through
exactly.
that
Oh
to
yeah,
some extent.
definitely. I, I, I,
Who
I'm
am I? Who am I without my traumas? Who am I without my
exactly. Who am I?
story?
Exactly. But it's like, why not change the narrative? I just
Hmm.
had to tell someone this the other day. Like, I'm listening to this person say the same story, same story for years. I'm like,
Hmm.
I had to stop them. I had to stop them in the middle of the conversation. I'm like, you know what? I'm not trying to be rude, but it is time for you to change your narrative. You have to change
Yes.
the story. They was quiet. I'm like, are you there? I'm like, because this has been the same story for the past 10 years. I need you to change your narrative. Like, you need to
Hmm.
change this story. Like, I don't
Right.
want this to be your story for the next 10 years, or the 10 years after,
Yeah.
you
Because you
know?
will hold on to that, right? It doesn't matter. Like the
Yeah.
time, it's something that happened 10 years ago feels like it happened to you just yesterday,
And that's
for a
how they
lot of
feel.
folks.
That's
Hmm.
exactly how they feel, like as if like this is still this what's happening to them right now, or what happened to them
Hmm.
10 years ago. It feels like it's still happening to like it just
Yep,
happened
they can
yesterday.
still see the curtains and the drapes on the wall. You know what I'm
Exactly.
saying? They're like, okay, they can feel everything.
Yes.
Okay, so they have to do the turning of the minds, which is
Turning up
basically
the
like
mind. Yep.
just switching your mind. So it's internal work. What
Yep.
really thinking like, okay, what path am I down? And then I'm gonna go a different path.
Yes. And then
Mm-hmm.
also, like, we learned about a skill last time, which is called the wise mind. Now, remember, we was
Yeah.
talking about the wise mind and, like the rational mind and the
Yep.
emotion mind and then that wise mind. So you
Yep.
actually have to use that wise mind because you have to start to, separate, you know, what's those emotions or your emotions that's talking. Are you trying
Yeah.
to rationalize these things, like, or are you trying to like actually use your, what's making more sense? Like, you got to have that
Mm-hmm.
willingness. You have to have that willingness and be ready to actually participate in this part of your life. Like,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
really do. You have to be ready to do this. You have to be, and it has to be
And not
something like,
everybody's ready. Not
no, they're
everybody is
not.
ready.
They're
Yeah.
not.
This feels like a step that comes after you've done some preliminary work.
You have to do so much work before you even get to this step. I'm telling you, it
Yeah,
really
you
does.
can't just
Like,
wake up and be like,
no,
oh, I think I'm gonna just
nope.
do something. I mean, some people can, God bless them, but for a
Yeah,
lot of people, you can't
yep,
just, I'm not gonna say can't. Can is a strong word, but for a lot of people,
right,
it's very difficult to, to get up and just be like, I've been doing this all this time. I've been thinking about this situation all this way.
right,
I think I'm just gonna, switch. Like for
right.
instance, when my mom passed, I was falling into a depressive episode and I could feel it.
Mhm.
And one day I woke up and I was like, mm-mm. I was like, I'm not doing this.
Yeah,
I just woke up. I was
yeah,
like, I'm not doing this anymore. And I accepted. I had, this is my example of my radical acceptance. I
right,
accepted, my mother's gone. Now, what I'm doing right now is not honoring her at all.
right,
It's not doing me any good. It's not going to lead to anything healthy. And mind
right,
you, yes, it's true. I've done a lot of, shadow work and inner child
right.
healing and, and mental health work for myself up until this point. But I was able to literally just one day, I was like, nope.
Right,
So,
exactly.
but
Yeah,
I haven't been able to do that for other, for other things. But that
right,
one specifically, I was like, nah, 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 we're not going down this road, and was able just to switch.
right.
Um,
Exactly, exactly. Yes. And and the thing is like, that's what I said, like, you have to be ready. But it takes that. It takes some time. It takes for you to, like, you have to be more aware of these things,
yeah,
to understand, like, how you can actually tap into that mindset, you know,
yeah,
willing to give yourself that type of ready, or give that yourself that type of power to even truly be at
yeah,
peace with these things, because it's not easy to
yeah,
actually just wait. You can't just, like you said, you can't just wake up and do this. Like, you have to really go through the different steps to actually get here.
yeah,
I
yeah,
said, like, you go through the steps of, emotional regulation and understanding
yeah,
what the distress tolerance is, and then understanding what, like, wise mind, and, like, be real about your emotions and rationalize it and be like, okay, what is it that I really need to do? And then when you get
yeah.
to, like, the radical acceptance, is it's like, okay, what, I already know that I'm ready for this because I've done all the work,
Mm-hmm.
and but it's good to actually observe, like, before you actually do the radical acceptance. I think it's good to actually observe, like, acknowledge, like, what actually led you to this moment, like, what made
Okay.
you get here, what made you actually be ready to be like accepting to the situation, like, like, did
Right.
everything fail, or did you just be like, what, like, I'm not, did someone else kind of say something to encourage you to get here? Or,
Yeah.
like, what is it like?
It's gonna be different for everybody,
It's
right?
going to
Like
be different for
why
everyone.
why they're
Exactly.
pushed to a place where they're
It,
just like, you know what? I think I'm just gonna accept this.
it'd be little things like that too. Like, someone said to me, they have been suffering for so long with dealing with the death of a child.
Oh
And
yeah.
what made them actually have the acceptance is that they avoided all times. They avoided, like, baby shower, anything to do with, like, baby
Yeah.
showers and things like that. And they said that they finally accepted it by going to a kid's birthday party. And
Mm-hmm.
they said that they didn't even know that they were going to a kid's birthday party. They just got invited to a birthday party and they needed something to
Mhm.
do that day. It was a family member. Nobody said it was a kid's birthday party. They just got invited to this birthday party.
Okay. Okay.
And when they got to the birthday party, they saw all these kids. They, and they were triggered at first. But then they said they realized, like, wait a minute, why am I still being triggered by this years and years later? Like, I could have
Yeah.
actually enjoyed this moment if I did, I could have enjoyed
Yeah.
this moment with my child. So, you know what? Let me actually enjoy this birthday party and let me have fun with my family.
Yeah.
Let me have fun with
Yeah.
my little cousins and engage with,
Mm.
everyone. And they said that's when they finally realized, like, I don't have to be sad anymore about the situation. I don't have to be
Right.
sad that I lost my child. I can actually enjoy the fact that, you know what, at one point I could have been this parent, but
Right.
I still have the opportunity to be this parent. Because I'm like, well, why can't you be the parent that you wanted to be? And it was like, because I never actually tried again because I never got to this point. And I'm like,
Yeah.
well, all this time, you didn't, like
Man.
trauma and our pain and suffering will block us. If we don't get to the radical
Hmm.
acceptance, the pain will block us from actually getting to what we could still have.
Right.
Like
Right.
we could still have those things.
Debilitating.
Exactly.
Hmm.
So like it took them all those years and it was like, wow, I missed out on all that and I could still have that. Like, and they were like, after a while they were like, joking about like, you know what? I gotta stop talking to you. I gotta go get to work. Like I mean, start sending me a baby.
They
I'm
said, let
like,
me go
right, like,
find somebody to give me a baby.
right. I was like, oh my God, that was so cute. But I was just like, exactly. They were happy to finally get over, they were embracing those
Good for
feelings
them. Yeah.
of sadness, and that's one of the steps of like trying to
Mm.
practice that radical acceptance is just embracing that disappointment, that sadness, and that grief,
Um, yeah.
embracing
Yeah,
it.
they
Think
talk about embracing the negative emotions. We don't,
that,
a lot of times we try to run away from them,
yeah,
but I think going through them, not like not swimming in them, not chilling
exactly.
out, with your negative emotions, like, okay, let's hang out together. Like, no, like
Right,
moving through, acknowledging, hey, girl, hey,
right,
and then
exactly,
continuing to move forward and through,
exactly,
Good to
exactly.
see you. Catch you later.
Right, exactly.
That's it.
So,
They say you need a balance of both negative and positive emotions. So, like,
yeah,
if you're always happy, then you're unbalanced. If you're
yes,
always, angry or depressed, then you're
right,
unbalanced. So, it's okay to have, these
right,
responses that don't always make you feel great, but to not stay in that, especially when it comes to something that happened in your past that's
right,
preventing you from being in the present.
exactly. And
Hmm.
I think that's what it is. People just, everybody is just scared to accept it. Like they don't know that's what I said. They don't know what it's going to look like.
Yeah.
So, and that's what I want, the homework assignment to be. It's just kind of
Okay.
like, list what would my life look like if I actually did accept the reality. No, so now
Oh.
what you're doing now is you're planning for your future. You're planning ahead. Like if you just
Mm,
finally like decided that, you know what, today I'm going to accept the fact that, that I was abused or I was, or that I lost a child
mm,
or I lost a parent or that I'm or
right.
whatever trauma or suffering that you still are holding on to. Like if I
Hmm.
finally accepted that and I'm no longer am just laying in that pain and that suffering and I'm allowing myself to just be socially cut
Mm,
off from it and I'm still dealing with whatever emotional dysregulation that is causing me. If I just moved past that and I actually did the work that I'm supposed to do, what would my life look like if I did that?
mm,
Or what,
mm,
what do we want it to look like?
yeah.
Um, and that's the conversation I had with somebody the other day. What do you, what? And they said it like, I should be doing this. I should be doing this. I said, but what? So why are you not doing it?
Yeah.
I'm like,
What's stopping you? What's
they
stopping
can't,
you?
because the trauma and the pain, because they're still wrapped in this cycle of suffering, is stopping them
Yeah.
from. So,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so that's what I said, okay, now it's time for you to, when are you going to start doing the work to accept it and move on from it?
Mm,
You know?
Yeah. Oh, you say think about the future because, something from your past has so many varied consequences for your present, right? So
Yes.
somebody who, like, for instance, we talk a lot about money mindset, right? And we talk
Yep.
about like
Oh yes.
generational, right? Like we talk about those generational curses, or we talk
Yep.
about like poverty mentalities and things like that. So let's say you grew up and and you've got your parents, or whoever is your guardian, is having a hard time managing the, sometimes y'all eat dinner, sometimes you don't, and this and that, and you grow up and you're kind of like,
Yep.
dang, I saw that they were suffering. When you grow up, you start hoarding money, maybe, like,
Yep.
oh, I'm just going to do this, and I'm not going to invest, and I'm not going to take any
Mhm.
risk, and I'm not going to, right? All the things that like the wealthy don't do. We start
Right.
doing it thinking that we're supposed to just be saving money that's depreciating in value, all the time, but we
Exactly.
don't know any better, right?
Yep.
But then that becomes, okay, I got to hoard money. Now I got to work all these jobs so that I can get the money. I
Right.
gotta make sure,
Yep.
right now I'm putting that before I'm putting my health. So now my health is failing because I need
Right.
that. Now I'm not gonna, own anything because I don't want to do any repairs to the home, and I don't want to lose the home and then be out. So I'm just gonna rent because I can afford that with my little checks. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? And like that becomes a cycle. And there's so many different things that are impacted. So now your health is jacked up.
Right.
Now now you're not gonna be an owner of anything. And not saying that's everybody's choice, but maybe
Right.
you're afraid to do that. Maybe you're afraid to make a bigger move. Maybe you don't want to be working, you want to
Right.
be doing something else, but you can't do that. You can't give back to the community because of the fear that
Right.
that has started back here. But if you let go of that,
Right.
right, if you had this radical acceptance of, okay, that was their circumstance, that's
Right.
how we grew up, doesn't mean that that's what needs to happen now for me, right, or for my
Right.
family. Then that can liberate so many people, and so many people
Right.
can find themselves, with a freer mind, being able to make decisions that are based off of the reality that's
Yeah.
in front of them, as opposed to the reality that is
Yes.
behind them.
Exactly.
Did
And
I say
I
it right?
yes, you said it right. Exactly. And that's just exactly what it is, like my wish is for everyone. Like I trust me, I went through it. I went through so much like trauma
Mhm.
as a child. And I think
Yeah.
I finally it like when I remember some of the stuff, like, and that's the thing about trauma. Some of the stuff you don't really remember it like that until
Oh
you
yeah.
older,
Yeah.
and you're like I said,
Hmm.
like experience and situations remind you of it. So when I finally got older, and it was interfering with a lot of like my friendships and relationships as I was getting
Hmm.
older. I'm like, when did I wanted it to stop? But I'm like, I also didn't know much about any of this stuff, that all these
Yeah.
skills and all this work now that that I'm teaching about,
Right.
nothing. I didn't know anything about this stuff at all.
Hmm.
But then I realized once I got into this field of work is when I realized, like, oh my goodness, I'm a traumatic mess. I need to do I'm like, I need to do all
Right.
the work that you're teaching me about. And that's when the work actually started. But
Yeah.
it really took a lot of work to actually get through. It's not, and again, I still think about the
Yeah.
all the traumatic stuff that I've been through. It's not that I ever forgot about it. I just learned
Yeah.
how to respond to it differently.
Hmm.
There's still things that
And that's
happen.
the key.
Exactly. I can
That's
still
the
be triggered by
key.
so many things, but I'm not. It doesn't, it's like almost as if it doesn't phase me because I respond to it differently now, and
Yeah.
that's what it's about. That's what it's about.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that. I know that I'm a believer in working through
Yes.
your issues. Work through your
Yes.
issues.
Work
I'm a
through your
believer of
issues.
that. You know what I mean? Because I also believe that when you don't work through your issues, your mind has a real jacked up way of protecting you.
Yes.
And
It
and
does.
so it will, I mean, and you talk about like even when my mom started developing dementia before she passed, I was like, Lord, her, because when nobody else in our family had ever developed this type of dementia that she had. And I was and I was watching her before, how like she was spiraling into this depression, kind of stayed there. Then it was kind of like, okay, I mean, you're depressed, but now you're starting to act a little like, I don't know what's going on,
Right.
and but I believe that that's a part of a defense mechanism. I know that there's like, but a
Yeah.
defense mechanism of like, oh yeah, you don't want to remember this, we gonna make sure that
Right.
you don't remember this, you know what I mean?
Right.
And so I have that in my for it's that's also something I think that I need to work through, kind of like, what causes certain things, and we don't know, right? But like, what causes certain things, like a dementia, or like multiple personalities that develop in
Right.
certain people, or there's all these different ways that your mind will be like, yo, we're going to
Right.
protect you from
Right.
this right
Exactly.
here.
Yep.
And I was just like, I don't want no parts of none of that. Like, if
Right.
anything, let me work through it, let me deal through it. May be uncomfortable in the beginning, right? So it's like, when we're working through those things, it's uncomfortable, and it's not like easy to do it, and you're crying and you're
Yeah.
shaking, and dealing with all of the emotions. And then eventually you come to a place where you're like, oh, whew, okay, I got through it, we're cool, I'm
Right.
still alive, I'm still
Exactly.
intact,
Right.
and now I got some extra tools, because you were able to have a support system. At least for our folks in our community, y'all have a support system.
Right. Exactly.
um I
Exactly.
can't speak for sis, or myself. I can't really say
Right.
I had, but anyway, I
Right.
digress,
Exactly.
right? With that love and support, it makes it a lot easier to go
Yeah.
through these things, when you're trying to face the music.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's true. You definitely need people by your side when you're going through these things. So, and if you don't have
Yeah.
those people, then
Well, they
try to
have us.
figure.
They got
Right,
us.
exactly.
That's
You
that's
have
what they got
us
a
for
community
sure.
for. You know what I'm saying? Even if
Right,
you don't have somebody to call up on the thing, send
right,
us a DM. Let's put a little, you know what I'm
exactly.
saying? There's no reason. I know that, y'all know us, but y'all don't know us, but still.
Right, but you do. Right,
But you
exactly.
do, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Right,
we're not like faking the funk. Like, when we're saying that we're here for you, we are here for you. So,
exactly.
send us messages, put in the chat, here's what I'm going through, or whatever, and we're cheering you on, we're supporting you, we're part of
Right,
your network of support.
right, exactly, exactly. So that is radical acceptance. I hope everyone enjoyed that, and do the
Thank
work
you.
so you can definitely move to the next part of your life, and be able to accept that part.
The nice glorious part that
Yes,
awaits you on the other side
exactly.
of radical acceptance. All right.
Yes,
Well,
exactly.
thank you, Coach
You're
Cicely.
welcome.
It's a great conversation for emotional wellness Wednesdays. And now for the coffee. Now to the
Right
coffee.
now for the coffee.
Y'all enjoy y'all day. All right,
Yes,
sis.
enjoy your
Thank you
day.
again.